If you've been renting in the East Bay and telling yourself you'll never be able to buy a home here, I want you to hear this today. Most first-time homebuyers right now are not putting 20% down. They are not waiting until they've saved 6 figures in the bank. And there is a specific list of East Bay cities where your first home is realistically within reach, even with rates where they are today. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how much you actually need saved in order to buy a home, which East Bay cities make sense for a first-time buyer's budget right now, and tell you about a state program that can hand you tens of thousands of dollars towards your down payment or closing costs that almost nobody is talking about. If we haven't met yet, I'm Jenn Collins. I help people buy and sell homes and figure out where exactly they want to live here in the Tri-Valley and throughout the East Bay. Most of the people we work with are either relocating, upsizing, downsizing, or just trying to make a smart move without regretting it later. And that's exactly what this channel is here for. So let's jump right in. Really quickly, before we dig in, I am a real estate agent, not a financial advisor or a mortgage broker. This is July of 2026, and the numbers I'm about to walk you through come from the California Housing Finance Agency, or CalHFA, the Federal Housing Finance Agency, Freddie Mac, and the National Association of Realtors. The programs they offer can change frequently, so be sure to check with your realtor or lender for up-to-date information. Here's the story almost every renter in the East Bay has told themselves at some point. I am never going to be able to buy a home. You need at least 20% down. You have to have a 6-figure income, and unless your parents are handing you a check, homeownership here in the East Bay just isn't going to happen for me. And listen, I get it. I understand why people believe that. Just look at the Tri-Valley. The median single-family home price in the Tri-Valley for 2026 is currently $1,750,000. That alone is enough to make a lot of people click to the next video, but don't. That headline is only describing one small area of the East Bay, and it leaves out the reality of how most first-time homebuyers are getting the keys to their first home. Nationally, the typical first-time homebuyer is putting down somewhere between 9 and 10%, not 20%. First of all, the East Bay is not just San Ramon, Walnut Creek, or Lafayette. It's also San Leandro, Pinole, Brentwood, and a handful of other cities where entry-level homes are in a completely different price range. So the real question here isn't, can anyone afford to buy a house in the Bay Area? It's, what does buying your first home in the East Bay actually require, and where would that work for you? So let's break it down. First, let's deal with the down payment myth. 20% down is not a rule. It's a number that gets you out of paying something called PMI, or private mortgage insurance, which is a monthly fee lenders charge when you put down less than 20%, because from their point of view, you're a slightly bigger lending risk. It is not a law. It is a fee, and it is one that most first-time homebuyers in this country are paying right now because they are buying with far less than 20% down. Let's put a face on this. Imagine someone we'll call Maria. She's a nurse in San Ramon, she's been renting for 6 years, and every time she ran the math on 20% down on a $600,000 condo, she landed at $120,000 and basically gave up. Here's what nobody told her. On a conventional loan, meaning a regular mortgage that isn't backed by a specific government program, a first-time buyer can put down as little as 3% on a loan under the standard limit, which covers the vast majority of homes here. On that same $600,000 condo, 3% is $18,000. That gap, $102,000, is the difference between a goal that feels completely impossible and one that's actually within reach after a year or two of focused saving. Now layer in a state program almost nobody asks me about. CalHFA, the California Housing Finance Agency, runs a program called MyHome Assistance. It's a deferred loan, meaning you make no monthly payments on it at all. That covers up to 3% of your purchase price on a conventional loan, or up to 3.5% on an FHA loan, a government-backed loan program that allows lower down payments and more flexible credit requirements. You only repay MyHome when you sell, refinance, or pay off the home, and it runs essentially year-round. It's not a lottery, and it's not a maybe. If you qualify, you qualify. And that is the kind of program worth a real conversation with a CalHFA approved lender before you start touring. Okay, so the money side is maybe a little more workable than you thought. Now let's talk about geography, because this is where the East Bay actually gets interesting for a first-time buyer. I want to group this into 3 buckets instead of marching through every city one by one, because that's actually how you should be thinking about it. Bucket number 1. Cities where a first-time homebuyer's budget realistically lands you in a single-family home or in a solid townhouse right now. Antioch and Pittsburgh lead this list. Median home values in Antioch are roughly $600,000, with entry-level condos and townhomes starting in the low $400,000. Brentwood is just above that, with typical single-family homes in the high $600s to low $800,000. Then there's bucket number 2, cities where you'll need a bigger budget, but you're still not at the top of the market. Think Concord, parts of Pleasant Hill, some parts of Dublin, and San Ramon condos or townhomes. You're looking at a meaningfully larger price than Antioch or Pittsburgh, but you're getting better schools, more safety, and you're still in a different price category than in the La Miranda and Danville and Alamo price points. In Concord, the median price for a condo or townhome is currently about $400,000. In Pleasant Hill, it's about mid-$600,000. In San Ramon, the median price for a condo or a townhome is about $700,000. And if you're looking in Dublin, because they have so much newer construction for this type of product, the median price is actually in the high $800,000. That brings us to bucket number 3, the cities that many first-time buyers treat as a 5 to 10 year goal, not as a first purchase. Danville, Alamo, Lafayette, Orinda, and Moraga. Median prices in Danville for condos and townhomes are about $1,050,000. And for single-family homes, the median price is currently $2.2 million. That is just not realistic for many first-time homebuyers, unless you have significant existing savings or a very high household income. It's so important to think of your first home as your first home. This is the home that gets you into the East Bay real estate market. It doesn't have to be your forever home. In fact, it probably won't be. And if you can keep that in mind as you begin your search, you'll open up a lot more opportunities for your specific situation. Here's a quick story to make this a little more real. Picture a couple that we'll call Derek and Priya. They both wanted to wait until they found the perfect home in Pleasant Hill. It had to be in the right neighborhood, it had to be updated, and it had to have a big backyard. They were sure the market was going to crash any day, and they were going to wait for that time to come. Guess what? They've been waiting for 8 years. And in that time, they've paid their landlord almost $400,000. And meanwhile, home prices have increased over 30%. Let's compare that to Charlotte and Ryan, who bought their first home in Brentwood. Yes, it was a little farther than they wanted to be from family. But after 8 years, they're using the equity they built in that home to help them buy their new home in Dublin. All right, so if your stomach sank a little when you heard the median price in Danville, take a deep breath. I hope you can tell by now that's not where this video is steering you. Drop a comment below with the city that you're watching from and where you'd love to live. Okay, let's keep going. Before we get into the part that actually changes the timeline for most buyers, if you're looking to buy anywhere here in the East Bay, our team offers a complimentary, no-pressure consultation where we help you run your numbers and map out a plan for your purchase. And if you're looking outside of the East Bay, anywhere else in California or out of state, we have an expert vetted agent partner program. These are agents I would send my own family to, and we'd love to connect you with one of them and help you on your journey. Call or text me at the number in the description and I'll connect you. Okay, let's talk about the part that actually determines whether any of this works for you, your loan officer conversation. Before you ever set foot in a home, please, please, please get pre-approved, not just pre-qualified. Pre-qualified means a lender did some quick math based on what you told them over the phone. Pre-approval means they actually pulled your credit and verified your income and assets, and it's the letter that lets a seller take your offer seriously. Here's the thing. When you start looking at homes without understanding what your budget really is, it's easy to look at homes that you think you can afford. You know, the more expensive ones. So when you fall in love with $1 million home and you can only afford $800,000, all of the homes that you see after that first love are going to pale by comparison. Don't set yourself up for that disappointment. Just talk to a lender. I'm happy to recommend some of the great lenders we work with. Your credit score here matters more than almost anywhere else in the process. The gap between a strong credit score and a weak one can run more than a full percentage point on your interest rate, which on a typical East Bay loan adds up to real money every single month for as long as you hold the mortgage. If your credit score needs some work, that is months well spent in preparation before you start touring homes. Here's a small story that captures this. Imagine somebody we'll call James. He had $11,000 saved, more than enough for a low down payment loan in Antioch. but his credit score was actually in the low 600s because of a couple of old collections that he'd never gotten around to disputing. He spent 4 months paying down 2 credit cards and clearing those collections instead of touring homes. His score moved up enough to meaningfully change the rate he was offered. That 4-month delay wound up saving him real money over the life of his loan. Mortgage rates right now in July of 2026 are in the mid 6% range on a 30-year fixed loan, according to Freddie Mac's most recent weekly survey. That is not where rates were in 2020 or in 2021, and waiting for rates like that to return, in my opinion, is just not a realistic plan to build around. What is realistic is buying the home and the payment that works for your life right now, and refinancing later if rates drop. When you do find a home and you're ready to write an offer, the biggest first-time homebuyer hurdle I see buyers grappling with is waiving their inspection contingency to look more competitive. The inspection contingency is the clause that lets you walk away or renegotiate if something major turns up once a licensed inspector actually gets inside the door and inspects the home. In a multiple offer situation, it can feel like everyone is waiving their inspection contingency, and sometimes they are. But on your first home, with your savings on the line, you really want to understand what inspections have been done and what haven't, what work the home needs, and the risk of potentially removing that inspection contingency. If you can, negotiate a shortened contingency or even have a contractor walk with you through the home before writing an offer. So let's directly answer the question that brought you here. How do you actually buy your first home in the East Bay? If you're renting in the East Bay, right now with some savings and a stable income, start with a CalHFA approved lender conversation this month, not after you found a home. Get your real budget, including the down payment assistance you might qualify for, before you start touring. If your dream city is Danville, Lafayette, Orinda, or Moraga, my honest opinion is to consider that your next home, maybe not your first one. Buy your first home or your starter home somewhere in San Leandro, Hayward, Pinole, Concord, or Brentwood right now. Build your equity and use that equity as your bridge to your next home. If your credit score is below the mid 600s, your best move this month might not be house hunting at all. It might be spending 90 days cleaning up your credit report before you ever talk numbers with a lender. Just remember, 20% down is a myth for most buyers. It's not a rule. The East Bay has many great options for entry point buyers. If this video was helpful, and I hope it was, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to our community, and turn on notifications so you can catch the next video. And be sure to share this with someone who's been telling you they'll never be able to buy here. Because it's possible, they're much closer than they think. I'm Jen with the Jenn Collins Group, and we help people make smart, confident moves here in the East Bay, whether that's next month or a year from now. If you're planning to buy or sell your home in the East Bay, I'd love to guide you through the process. Call or text me at the number below to schedule a complimentary, no obligation strategy session with me. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.